channel from point Conception to point Mugu, California, including Santa Cruz Island, inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, outer waters from Santa Cruz Island to San Clemente Island to 60 nautical miles offshore, including San Nicolas and Santa Barbara Islands, waters from Point South to Santa Cruz Island, California, and westward 60 nautical miles, including San Miguel and Santa Rosa Islands, until 11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 8:53 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, heavy rain with embedded isolated thunderstorms will continue to move east across the southern outer waters and inner waters from the Santa Barbara Channel, which includes Anacapa and Catalina Islands. There continues to be a few rotating cells within the front. Storms were moving northeast around 40 miles an hour across the coastal waters. There is a potential for water spouts this evening across the inner waters and southern outer waters. Hazard, water spouts, wind gusts to 40 knots, and small hail. Source, radar. Impact, water spouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Small craft could be damaged and briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. Locations impacted include West Point, Santa Cruz Island, Los Angeles Harbor, Catalina Island, King Harbor, Dana Point, Anacapa Island, Point Dume, Avalon, Two Harbors, Ventura Harbor, Port of Los Angeles, Newport Harbor, Galita Point, Manhattan Beach, Redondo Beach, and Rancho Palos Verde. Thunderstorms can produce sudden water spouts. Water spouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous. A wind advisory for San Gabriel and San Fernando. Marine warning for the following inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands. The National Weather Service in Oxnard has issued a special marine warning for East Santa Barbara Channel from Point Conception to Point Mugu, California, including Santa Cruz Island, inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, outer waters from Santa Cruz Island to San Clemente Island to 60 nautical miles offshore, including San Nicolas and Santa Barbara Islands, waters from Point South to Santa Cruz Island, California, and westward 60 nautical miles, including San Miguel and Santa Rosa Islands, until 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 6:59 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, a cold front with heavy rain and embedded thunderstorms will continue to move across the Santa Barbara Channel. This storm has shown a history of rotating cells within the showers with the possibility of water spouts. Storms have been moving around 40 miles an hour and should be out of warned area by 8 p.m. Hazard, water spouts, wind gusts to 40 knots, and small hail. Source, radar. Impact, water spouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Small craft could be damaged and briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. Locations impacted include West Point, Santa Cruz Island, Galita Point, Santa Rosa Island, San Miguel Island, and Point Conception. Following is a summary of watches, warnings, and advisories in inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands.
That's what you get.
The National Weather Service in Oxnard has issued a special marine warning for East Santa Barbara Channel from Point Conception to Point Mugu, California, including Santa Cruz Island, inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, outer waters from Santa Cruz Island to San Clemente Island to 60 nautical miles offshore, including San Nicolas and Santa Barbara Islands, until 8:45 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 6:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, heavy rain with embedded thunderstorms will move east into the inner waters, which includes Anacapa and Catalina Islands. There were several rotating cells within the front. Storms were moving northeast 40 to 50 miles an hour across the coastal waters. There is a potential for water spouts this evening across the inner waters and southern outer waters. Hazard, water spouts, wind gusts to 40 knots, and small hail. Source, radar. Impact, water spouts can easily overturn boats and treat locally hazardous seas. Small craft could be damaged in briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. Locations impacted include Los Angeles Harbor, Catalina Island, Dana Point, Anacapa Island, Point Dume, Avalon, Two Harbors, Alamitos Bay, Ventura Harbor, Port of Los Angeles, Newport Harbor, Rancho Palos Verde, and Malibu. To San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands. The National Weather Service in Oxnard has issued a special marine warning for East Santa Barbara Channel from Point Conception to Point Mugu, California, including Santa Cruz Island, inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, outer waters from Santa Cruz Island to San Clemente Island to 60 nautical miles offshore, including San Nicolas and Santa Barbara Islands, Point Piedras Blancas to Point South from 10 to 60 nautical miles, Point Piedras Blancas to Point Southwestward out to 10 nautical miles, waters from Point South to Santa Cruz Island, California, and westward 60 nautical miles, including San Miguel and Santa Rosa Islands, until 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 5:01 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, there are several rotating cells embedded within a large area of thunderstorms moving across the outer waters near the Channel Islands to San Luis Obispo County and into the Santa Barbara Channel. Storms were moving northeast around 40 to 50 miles an hour through the coastal waters. There will continue to be the potential for waterspouts to continue to develop through 7 p.m. this evening across the Santa Barbara Channel. Hazard, waterspouts, wind gusts to 40 knots, and small hail. Source, radar. Impact, waterspouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Small craft could be damaged in briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. Locations impacted include West Point Santa Cruz Island, Point Arguello, Point Sal, Santa Rosa Island, San Miguel Island, Point Conception, Galita Point, and Pismo Beach. Thunderstorms can produce sudden waterspouts. Waterspouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Seek safe harbor immediately. You're listening for Central Orange County. At 12:11 a.m., a severe thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located near John Wayne Airport, or over Costa Mesa, moving north at 35 miles per hour. Hazard, tornado. Source, radar indicated rotation. Impact, flying debris will be dangerous to those caught without shelter. Mobile homes will be damaged or destroyed. Damage to roof, windows, and vehicles will occur. Tree damage is likely. Locations impacted include Santa Ana, Irvine, Garden Grove, Orange, Costa Mesa, Tustin, Newport Beach, Westminster, Fountain Valley, and John Wayne Airport.
Of course, Oxnard, of course. You decide to issue another thing. Of course, Oxnard.
A special marine warning for the following inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands. The National Weather Service in Oxnard has issued a special marine warning for inner waters from Point Mugu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, until 1:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 12:23 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, a severe thunderstorm capable of producing waterspouts was located near Dana Point, or near Laguna Beach, moving north at 40 knots. Hazard, waterspouts and wind gusts 34 knots or greater. Source, radar. Impact, waterspouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Small craft could be damaged in briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. The severe thunderstorm will remain over mainly open waters. Thunderstorms can produce sudden waterspouts. Waterspouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Seek safe harbor immediately. Flood advisory. 0.75 inches and rising. Magu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Santa Barbara Islands. The National Weather Service in Oxnard has issued a special marine warning for inner waters from Point Magu to San Mateo Point. California, including Santa Catalina and Anacapa Islands, until 3:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 2:21 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, a strong line of thunderstorms was indicating some rotating cells within the line near Huntington Beach and south across the inner waters 10 nautical miles west of Laguna Beach. Storms showing rotating cells are capable of producing waterspouts. Storms were moving east-northeast at 40 miles an hour. Hazard, wind gusts to 40 knots and small hail. Source, radar. Impact, small craft could be damaged and briefly higher winds and suddenly higher waves. Locations impacted include Huntington Beach, Laguna Beach, and Dana Point. Thunderstorms can produce sudden waterspouts. Waterspouts can easily overturn boats and create locally hazardous seas. Seek safe harbor